Welcome to Cardinal 84's 2014 season highlights. I want to dedicate this video to my family, Michelle, Michael, Saku, Du, who won a $250 gift certificate from Cabela's for this photo, and Daniel, New York State Microd champion. Congratulations. The year starts out with a little bit of ice fishing. To make it more interesting for the kids, I bought a Vexillar fish phone camera. Here's a pike out of Big Lake. In low light conditions, the camera switches to black and white. Here's a Dolly Varden. With a little bit more light, the color camera kicks in. This has to be the world's best video game. Now that is one happy kid. Even my daughter, who's usually not much into fishing, had a blast. 3 of us kayakers tried the Homer Winter King Derby in March. We didn't catch any fish, but we did get some press. We'll be back. The first productive kayak trip of the year is May 11th on Mother's Day. The first strike of the day feels like I'm reeling in slack line until it sees the kayak. It turns out to be a 17-pound halibut, a fitting start for the 2014 season. Pretty amazing considering I was fishing in 20 feet of water, only 10 feet down. The second strike of the day, there's no mistake. It's definitely a king. I was very fortunate to land this feeder king, as in the following weeks they shut down this fishery to protect the spawning kings headed up the inlet. These feeder kings originate further south. A family outing to Russian River on my birthday. What could be better? With the king salmon closures, I'm focusing my attention on the halibut. Here's a 57-pound halibut, my personal best from a kayak at the time. It manages to snap 200-pound mono leader, and I'm lucky that lead didn't hit me. It's potential accidents like this that make personal flotation devices mandatory. You could be Michael Phelps in a bathtub, and you would still drown without a proper PFD if that lead knocked you unconscious. Well, you know, after a personal best, I'm going to go right back at it. 2 days later, I catch another limit totaling 70 pounds. A quick shout out to Greg from polebendersfishing.com. He always provides a lot of information in this area that helps me catch these fish. Although it's a relatively small sample size, for me at least, the fish I caught this year were twice as large as the fish I've caught the previous few years. This fish was the eventual winner of the Northwest Kayak Anglers Alaska Yak Classic for 2014. The relatively large halibut I was catching off of kayaks even caught the eye of the press. Took Stephanie out kayak fishing for the very first time off her boyfriend's kayak. I heard she bought a Hobie the very next month. A quick detour to Whittier to jig up some bait. I get a call from my buddy Duo in Japan. He asks me to take 2 of his friends fishing who are visiting Alaska. First time in a kayak, and they do great.
Hey.
Here's something you don't see every day, a one-eyed halibut. The next day we decide to float the Upper Kenai River. We see some wildlife pretty close up. We managed to catch a red salmon and a bunch of rainbows and dollies. If you haven't tried this off your kayaks, it's definitely a trip I recommend. The last few weeks of July is sockeye season. Michelle packs up the kids and off they go in pouring rain. They even catch a few fish. I float the Kenai once and manage a limit myself. Here's the dip netting A-team, over 90 reds this day. My son and I are fortunate to get an invite on the Salty Dog and Captain Chan. We went out to Resurrection Bay and we hammered the cohos. We managed over 30 fish in less than 2 hours. This is definitely a trip my son will never forget. Finally, the long-awaited trip to Kodiak. This trip was put together by the community at NorthwestKayakAnglers.com. Many of the best kayak anglers in the Pacific Northwest call this site home. On our way down to Homer, we stop at the Russian River. Our first day in Kodiak was a little slow, with Bushy managing a really nice silver out of Calcin. Our second day was out at Pasagshak Bay, and we find the halibut. Although I was too busy fishing, I should have looked around a little more. It was almost like fishing in Hawaii. I want to thank Chris Martino from Liquid Adventures for these photos. Finally, on day 5, I get the strike I've been looking for.
Dude, I'm gonna need a bigger boat.
Watch how close the tail comes to hitting the buoy. I can imagine the buoy coming back and wrapping around the kayak, or worse, me. Even though this halibut is towing an A1 buoy with 29 pounds of flotation and nearly 10 pounds of drag, it keeps the buoy under for over 30 seconds.
Buoy's still down. There the buoy. I don't know, this might come closer. Left hand, work left. Ah!
fish tapes out at 59.5 inches or roughly 105 pounds. Mark, aka Spot, wins the Fight of the Week award. What makes this remarkable is Mark is using an A2 buoy with 68 pounds of flotation and over 10 pounds of drag, twice what I was using.
That big thing, man. That's awesome. That's why we're here, man. Woo!
Alan, aka Pole Pole, gets in on the action as well.
Chris is on one. Nice.
Here in the cold waters of Alaska, I think a dry suit is mandatory. We all wear Kodiak products because they're made in the USA and we can rely on them with our lives. On the final day, we're just too tired, so we hit the buskin for some cohos and find a little action. What a great honor to be able to fish with some of the top kayak anglers in the Pacific Northwest. Plans are already being made for a trip in 2015. Well, once again back on the mainland, I decided to go out and hit the Russian River with my son. Although trout fishing on the Kenai River is a blast, these kings off the Homer Spit have just too much food value to ignore. Mid-September is my typical start date for this fishery off the Homer Spit. The main bait fish in this area are sand lances, so lures like the Silver Horde Coho Killer and the Gold Star Needlefish Hoochies are my go-to choices. From the end of September through almost all of October, I caught dozens of kings. Unfortunately, they were all small ones like these. Hopefully this bodes well for future seasons. Since it seems like all I'm catching are smaller fish, I accept an invite from Captain Sean on board the Salty Dog. Martin, Bob, myself, and of course Captain Sean hit the Homer Elks Derby. Fishing was a little bit slow, but we managed a few nice fish. The following week, we try it again. With better weather, our luck improves. Although I've pretty much lived in Alaska since 1971, even I find it hard to believe that I can still catch kings in open water from a kayak in November. Getting good information is critical for fishing success, and so I want to give a big shout out to Captain Shane from Driftwood Charters and Captain Josh from Brooks Alaskan Adventures. These guys consistently provide information that put me on fish. If I was looking for a charter, I wouldn't hesitate to give them a call. And a super special thank you to Gary at AlaskaOutdoorJournal.com. That man spends countless hours compiling information that I know contributes to the productivity of every one of my trips. Another great site I use to get information on Alaska fishing are the forums at the AlaskaOutdoorsSupersite.com. since my freezer was getting full and I was catching a lot of small fish, I decided to give it a try with the 4-weight. Wow, even these small fish are a blast with this rod. I can't wait to catch a real king with it. Halibut? That should be crazy. Well, what a great year. I can't wait for 2015. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, visit my pages at alaskakayakfisher.com. Thanks for watching. I'm also proud to be a part of the Yak Angler Nation, where I'm one of their regional pro staff. yakangler.com, one of the top national sites for kayak anglers.